Joel Wolf spoke earlier, and he referred to Senga as almost on a rehab progression still. I'm just curious what your understanding of where he is at physically is.
Yeah, so he is a healthy player who's progressing through his offseason. He has not begun to throw yet, but that's not necessarily abnormal for Senga as he goes through his offseason. We still expect him to be a pitcher for us on opening day and be ready to go. And if that changes, if we get information that makes us question that, we'll certainly pass it along.
Is there anything with him? Obviously, he barely pitched this past year, innings-wise, that you need to rein him back now versus where he would normally be?
I don't think so. I think when you have that level of bulk over the course of your career, I'm not concerned, and we are not concerned as an organization about getting him back up there as long as he feels good. I mean, one of the main challenges this past year with Senga was even when we were getting him to a point where he was medically in a good shape, he had a challenging time getting his mechanics to where he felt like he could go out and really compete. And so that's going to be part of this process. We have to get not only the medical piece checked off, which I think we will be able to, but we also have to have a pitcher who feels really confident where he is from a mechanical perspective to go out and compete and win games for us.
How much does that uncertainty affect your approach to the rotation this offseason?
I think it accentuates the need for depth, and that's something that we talk about a lot, and the desire to ensure that we have 8 to 10 starting pitchers somewhere in our organization that we feel really confident about that can contribute over the course of the season.
He also mentioned that you guys were sending somebody to Japan to see Senga right now.
Yes.
Who was that, and what was
this is standard practice for us. We send our strength and conditioning coaches and some medical personnel to visit players throughout the offseason. This is the time of year where we're doing that with Senga. So Joe Golia is heading over to Tokyo soon, tomorrow maybe.
Joel was talking about Sasaki. You acknowledged seeing him in Japan, so yes. I thought I might ask. He said he described him as somewhat quiet, and he doesn't necessarily love people who are verbose. Does that give you the verbosity of New York City give you any pause?
So I've not met him, so I can't comment on the personality or what he's like from a conversational perspective. What I can comment on is he's a really talented pitcher, and whoever gets him is going to have a very talented young pitcher going forward. We're certainly going to give it our best shot. Very difficult in these processes to truly understand what a player's preference is. This isn't a normal free agent recruitment process, so we're going to submit our presentations and our materials just like everyone else, and we'll wait for his camp's feedback.
You don't have a sense from Joel or anybody that he wouldn't want a big market because of what that comment says? Or
we have not gotten that feedback yet.
Given his timeline, do you almost have to just operate as if you assume you're not going to get him, and if you get him, it's a bonus?
Yes.
You plan to go out there next? Joel was saying next week people are going to start going out there. Do you think
we'll find out? I think that's an invitation-only process, and we don't know yet.
Okay.
Dave, how unique of an opportunity is that when you have somebody who's going to be coming here as an international free agent, but is
subject to the bonus pools?
Yeah, but also of a guy that is like a $300 million talent essentially, but for that price. I mean, does that make it more hotly contested, or how do you view that?
Sure, I think all 30 clubs are going to do their best to demonstrate to the player through a PowerPoint presentation or video why their situation is the right one. And all 30 clubs are going to be doing it with a little bit of a blind spot in terms of fully understanding what is motivating the player, what the player is looking for. And so we'll do our best. But it's certainly an attractive opportunity not only for us but the other 29 clubs.
He said a few teams put the presentations in the Dropbox or whatever already. Did you get in? Did you submit?
We have our presentation, and it is either in his hands or on the way. Yes, we will be sure that our presentation is in front of Roki at the right time.
What do you highlight with stuff like that?
I think we highlight a variety of different things. The first is who we are as an organization, what we believe in, what we think maybe makes us a little bit unique compared to other teams he might be considering. We highlight the various services we can provide for a player. We highlight our familiarity with transitioning Japanese starter to the major league schedule. We highlight our pitching apparatus, our health apparatus, our nutrition apparatus. We want him to know that we have the resources and we have the ability to make this transition as smooth as possible.
How much stronger is that?
Thanks. Point taken.
How much stronger do you think that pitch is this year after the season you just had, and you having had a year under your belt to make that pitch now than it would have been maybe last year?
I think I have a better understanding of what, as an organization, distinguishes us a little bit, and so we can highlight those things.
How would that work, having two guys in the rotation that would need an extra day, or potentially need an extra day?
I think once you have one guy in the rotation who needs the extra day, adding the second isn't, especially when someone of this caliber, isn't a particular challenge. You're already more or less committing going to that 6-man rotation. It's not like adding a second makes you go to the 7-man rotation. So I think we're okay with it.
Do you guys do the presentation in Japanese?
Yes.
The grimace in the presentation.
That is a great question. I don't believe Grimace I can't believe I'm answering that question. I don't believe that Grimace made an appearance in the Roki Sasaki presentation. Thank you, Mike.
It's a copyright issue.
Yeah. If we don't get the player, we now know why. That's yes.
With Holmes now announced, how did the discussions develop in the interest of him as starter?
Yeah, so we first talked to them, I think it was when we were at the GM meetings, and we're talking about a variety of different things. Our team needs our really belief in Clay as a pitcher, familiarity that Carlos Mendoza had with him, and B.B. Abbott, his agent, said to me, he has long wanted a chance to go back to starting. Do you think that's possible? And I said, yeah, we think that's possible. And we're going to do a lot more work on it. And we did. And we had multiple discussions with Clay directly about it. Jeremy Hefner talked to Clay. We had our medical staff discuss with Clay what this would look like. And I think we all came away believing, this is a real possibility, and we could get this player to a point where he's going to be a very good major league starter, and he was very motivated to do that. We were able to work out a deal.
In your mind, is this an experiment with the fallback option of being a reliever for you, or is this you're signed Clay Holmes? He's in your rotation.
He's in our rotation. Yeah, we believe he's a starter. If for some reason that doesn't work, we know he's an effective reliever. But he is coming here because he wants to start. We believe he's a starter, and he's going to get every opportunity to do that.
What are the pieces of him that make you think he can do that?
So first is I think the desire to do that. The arsenal should work against both sides of the plate. He has, we think, the variety of stuff to turn over a lineup multiple times, and you start adding all of those up, and that leads you to believe like this could be an effective major league starter. I think the usage is probably going to have to change a little bit. He may have to introduce some new stuff that we believe he can do. And if he's able to do that, I think we're going to have someone who's going to be a very solid contributor in our rotation.
Were you surprised when BB brought that up?
Was I surprised?
When BB said he was interested in starting?
Not necessarily. I think in this day and age with relievers who continue to refine what they do, frankly, with the pitch design resources that all these guys have in front of them, I think there are, frankly, a number of relievers that have considered converting, especially those who had started previously in their careers. So, no, it didn't shock me.
What's a reasonable expectation for innings after he's only pitched 60 to 70 the past few years?
Yeah, so we talked about this a ton, and we don't have innings limits, and we talked about this last year with some of our younger pitchers. We don't believe in it. What we do believe in is constant monitoring, baselining, and regular check-ins with the pitcher. So we are not going into this with a set innings goal. We're going to make sure he stays strong and healthy. And if we begin to see signs that we need to take our foot off the accelerator a little bit, we will. But until that point, we're planning on him being a normal starter.
Is 2-seam, 4-seam, and his sweeper slider enough, or does he need another off-speed pitch?
I think he's going to work on a couple of different types of things. I mean, I think in the introduction of a changeup, which he's comfortable doing, could make some sense. But until we actually start seeing what this looks like going through a lineup multiple times, it's probably going to be an evolving process.
This seems like a deeper than normal starting pitching class at free agency. How have you found it inventory-wise in terms of the trade market? What's could reasonably be moved?
The starting pitching. There are certainly starting pitchers who are being discussed on the trade market. I would expect, multiple starting pitchers to be. I don't know how to quantify it, but multiple starting pitchers to be moved in the coming weeks. And so there is, I think, both a reasonable quantity in the free agent market and starting pitchers available through trade.
To what extent do you maybe have a preference in terms of continuing to acquire arms?
I don't have a preference. I think we have to be active in all of these different areas and do our best to find the fit, talent, term, dollars, acquisition cost, all that stuff that makes the most sense for us.
Do you anticipate a modified 5-man rotation, or might you go to a true 6-man?
I am. If we have a stretch in our season where you've got 2 off days in a week,
right,
you probably don't want to stick to a 6-man during that time. It just stretches guys out too much. But I would expect most of the time in the conventional schedule, probably going to have 6 starters. Yeah. And then there will be times in the schedule due to off days, breaks, whatever it is, where we drop a guy to the pen.
It feels like the past couple of years, sometimes theoretically when Senga was coming back, it was going to be routinely 5-man, and then during those long stretches without an off day, slot in the 6th guy for 2-3 turns, whatever. It sounds like the way you describe it now, it's maybe a little bit the opposite, where the 6 will be the norm, and you can subtract if and when you want to.
Yeah, so I can't speak to 2 years ago. I would say last year our plan coming into spring training was Senga was going to get 5 days of rest. Okay. And however that worked, he was going to get 5 days of rest, and that's going to be our plan as well.
In recent years, you guys have tried to protect a certain amount of your top prospects. Maybe it was like 1 through 20 or something like that. Are you open to trading some guys in that, like maybe 1 through 10 range right now for whatever it may be?
So open to trading some of our top prospects.
Yeah.
I think we have to be. We are in the right deal. We have to look to see whether there are players who can immediately make us better, who potentially have control, things like that. So I wouldn't close the door on it. You're never looking to trade your top prospects. We like the top of our system quite a bit. We think it's a good group. Many of them have the ability potentially to help us pretty quickly at the big league level. So I can't say we're looking to do it, but I'm not going to close the door on it.
For first base in general used to be the spot that a team would look for power. That feels a little less position specific these days. How much does that influence what you look for when you're trying to find a first baseman?
Yeah, I think it's the entirety of the package, and I do think you're right. Those offensive positional profiles that maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago we used to attribute to certain positions on the diamond, aren't perhaps quite as needed now as power has proliferated throughout all sorts of positions. We have a shortstop who hits 30 home runs. That didn't used to be the case. So I'd say it's all part of the overall player evaluation. Power is really important. Hitting home runs is the most effective way to score runs. So we take all that into account, but there are other aspects of how we're going to contribute to wins as well.
You have a few of those guys who are like on the cusp of being on the major league roster, but maybe still AAA, whether it's Acuna, Brett Beatty, whoever else. Are you looking at that as your group for like a utility spot in regards to like a bench, or do you bring in like a veteran type for that role as well?
What it says, we haven't decided that yet. I've said this since I got here. It's important for us to have room for young players to play. doesn't have to be an everyday role, doesn't have to be at the same spot every single day, may not even have to be on opening day, but we have to give ourselves space over the course of the year for our young players to play. And we saw last year how that can benefit us. Obviously with Mark, with what Acuna did, with some of what our arms did to help us over the course of the year, we have to build rosters that are flexible enough so that younger players, when they are ready, can come up and get a real shot at the major league level.
Dave, do you have a payroll budget?
Nope. No, I mean, we Steve and I talk about investments as they come and players as they become available and different opportunities, and we're evaluating each individual decision.
Do you think if you recommended it, he would say yes?
I think as we have discussions, we're constantly talking through the benefits and drawbacks of every decision. We've run very high payrolls. I think we're going to continue to run high payrolls, but it's not limitless, and I understand it. And so even if there's not a firm, this is the ceiling, I have to be disciplined because it's not limitless, and you have to leave yourself room to constantly improve the team.
Just one last one on this. So you're saying there's a ceiling, but if you thought you were at the ceiling and something came along that you were like, I think we could win with this, or win at a higher level, would the ceiling be removed with your owner?
I think we always have those discussions. I can't comment on sort of the hypothetical answer to a hypothetical question, but I think those conversations are always going to happen between Steve and me. We've had a number of them over the course of my first year here, and Steve wants to win, and I want to win, and so I think we're very much aligned in terms of what our motivations are.
You referenced a desire a couple of months ago to, year to year, not always be in the 300s payroll-wise, not be over that last luxury tax threshold. Is that number significant to you this year going into 2025?
I don't think we're looking at any specific number as a threshold. I think, as I've said before, anytime you pass any of the CBT thresholds, you have to do the analysis to understand what the cost is. And we're going to continue to do that. And at times it's probably going to make sense for us to push through, and at times it's not. And that's going to be true every single year. But I am confident this year and going forward that we are going to have plenty of resources to put good teams on the field.